Today's story is titled The God I Met in the Woods by David Hollow. The link to the story is in the description below. Please enjoy. I'm writing this because no one else will listen anymore. I went to the police first, then the park rangers, then anyone who would return my calls. They took my statement, asked the usual questions, and eventually stopped contacting me altogether. No bodies were found. No evidence was logged. According to them, nothing I described exists. They told me trauma can distort memory. One detective suggested I take time away from the internet. I know what I saw. I know what happened to the people who went missing with me. I'm writing this here because I don't know where else to turn. If this reaches someone who understands what I'm describing or has heard of similar things, please read carefully. I need to know if what we encountered has a name. My friends and I had been hiking during the spring of last year on the Appalachian Trail for 3 days by then, staying on the main path, except for a short, clearly marked off offshoot our map listed as a scenic detour. It wasn't remote enough to feel dangerous, still within sight of blazes on the trees, still close enough that we passed other hikers earlier that morning. There were 5 of us. Ethan insisted on leading, like he always did. Caleb lagged behind, stopping to take photos. Marcus complained about his boots. Lena kept track of our progress, double-checking the map every hour. No one felt uneasy. No one suggested turning back. That's what makes this so hard to explain. We weren't chasing rumors or shortcuts. We weren't drunk or reckless. We didn't cross any boundaries that weren't already marked and approved. Even when the forest grew quieter, we treated it like nothing more than a change in elevation or weather. What I'm saying is that we weren't lost when they found us. The trees went quiet at first, not suddenly, just gradually, like the forest was holding its breath. Then when all things seemed to go silent, Caleb asked Lena if she heard that. Heard what? I thought. It was dead quiet. It felt as if we were in the empty void of space. A whistle erupted in the air, sounded like a shoehorn. I'm not sure how to explain it, but it wasn't natural. They stepped out between the trunks, 6 of them at least, dressed in layered gray cloth stiff with ash. Their faces were smeared with it too, streaked deliberately, like war paint or mourning. We all froze in place. Ethan had no clue what to say or do. Neither did I. They carried bows that, now I look back and realize, were made of bone. One of them carried a hatchet with a dry redness on the sharp end. One of them stepped forward and pressed 2 fingers into a bowl at his waist. He smeared ash across Ethan's forehead, then Marcus, then Lena. When he reached me, I tried to pull back. The nomad's eyes were hollow. I don't know how else to describe it. There was no reflection in them, no hint of light. Looking into them felt like staring down a dark, hollow pit, and from somewhere deep inside that darkness, something was staring back at me. We attempted to walk away. They started getting agitated and spoke in what I would assume is their old native tongue. Hands like iron, they rounded us like cattle, too strong. One of them struck Caleb in the ribs with a staff carved in spirals, and he dropped instantly, gasping. When Lena screamed, they shoved what looked like raw meat into her mouth until she gagged and started to convulse within minutes. They tied us up and forced us to wherever they call home. The path wasn't on any map. Stones lined it, carved with symbols that made my vision swim if I stared too long. The nomad that was carrying Lena who still looked lifeless, treaded the opposite direction at a fork in the path. Ethan and Caleb bolted without warning. Ethan wasn't as quick. He didn't make it 10 steps before something struck him from behind. I never saw what hit him. I just heard the sound of a stone meeting skin. They dragged him by his feet. They didn't rush. They didn't shout. They knew where we were going. By the time we reached the clearing, I failed to make peace with my God. I kept telling myself we'll be fine, that somehow we will be set free. I held onto that thought like a prayer. The clearing waited at the end of the path like it had always been there. Something stood in the center. At first, I thought it was a statue, some kind of shrine gone wrong. But statues don't slither, do they? It was tall, but not upright. Its body sagged under its own weight, flesh folding and unfolding in slow, nauseating patterns. Skin tones didn't match, didn't agree with each other, like pieces taken from different things and forced to coexist. Some of it moved independently, twitching or breathing out of rhythm. Its flesh was wrong, not its own. The ash people knelt. The thing's voice didn't travel through the air. It bloomed inside my head, ancient and vast, speaking in a language that somehow translated itself into meaning. The images it forced into my mind were unbearable. Land flourishing unnaturally, sickness erased, bloodlines continuing long past their prime, prosperity twisted into something obscene.
One of you will hold the Messiah. One may carry it. The rest will...
Ethan didn't hesitate. He stepped forward before anyone could stop him. He had always been like that, first into danger, first to volunteer when things turned ugly. He spat towards the thing, cursed it, called it a perversion, told it he wasn't afraid. The thing accepted him eagerly. Its flesh parted, not like a mouth, but the way a body is opened during surgery. A slow, deliberate yielding, layers peeling back as if it expected him. The cavity beneath pulsed wetly, alive with motion. From within that pit, tendrils erupted, ropes of mismatched skin, slick and twitching. Guts that belonged to no single creature shot outward and wrapped around Ethan's arms and torso, yanking him forward with impossible strength. He screamed, not in fear, but in agony. The thing screamed too. At first, it sounded like wounded animals layered atop one another. Deer, bear, bird. Their cries overlapping, warping, tearing through the air. Then the sound shifted, narrowing, reshaping, until they became human. My best friend was consumed. His body pulled apart and folded inward, absorbed into the unending mass of flesh, as if he had never been whole to begin with. The ash people bowed their heads and chanted, "He was not worthy," one of the female nomads said calmly, as though announcing the weather. I shook where I knelt. There was no chance, no mercy to be found here. My eyes remained fixed on its heaving tissue. Near the center of the mass, partially submerged and blinking slowly, was an eyes and facial features I recognized. Caleb's. I knew it by the scar above the brow, by the way it struggled to focus, by the silent panic trapped behind it. Any hope I had left died in that moment. There was no escape. There was no savior coming. There was only a God made of flesh. I don't remember choosing to stand, but I did. I rose from where I'd been trembling and stepped forward. I don't know whether it was surrender or inevitability. I gave myself to the flesh deity. What happened during my assimilation is unclear. My memory fractures there, dissolving into sensation without shape or language. I woke at the edge of the trail, alone, like nothing had happened. Weeks have passed, then months. Lena is dead. She took her own life. Marcus won't answer my messages. I wake up with ash under my nails. Sometimes, in my dreams, I hear a voice that is not my own. I don't know who the blessing truly chose. The authorities released their conclusions last week. An accident, they said. Exposure, panic, a series of poor decisions made by inexperienced hikers. The reports mention hypothermia, animal interference, and the unreliability of memory under extreme stress. They ruled the rest as unrecoverable, a word that sounds cleaner than the truth. The news ran with it for a day, a short segment, stock footage of trees, a reminder to stay on marked trails. None of it is true. I recognize the lies because they are incomplete, because they end where the real story begins, because they cannot explain the symbols I still see when I close my eyes, or why ash keeps appearing in places I have never been since. They say nothing unusual was found. I know better. I stood before it. I heard it speak. I felt it choose. You can call this delusion if you want. That's what they did. That's what the paperwork says. But delusions don't leave scars, and they don't wake you in the night whispering promises in a voice that isn't yours. I know what happened, and the fact that no one believes me doesn't make it less real. It only means it's still hungry. If you've seen the symbols, heard the language, or know why they choose outsiders, I need to know. Because the authorities won't help, and whatever they serve didn't stop with them. And I don't know how much longer I can last, because something is growing inside me. I can feel it slithering, coiling beneath my skin, growing day by day, waiting, eager to fulfill the world of its prophecy.